Okay, take 11 on this one. I goofed up a bunch this morning and I tried it last night and it was just way too dark. But here's just a quick update. What's going on? Here's your differential now. Let me get this camera straight. I moved this stuff outside because there's no room to work with two cars in there and no room to work, especially with the mess I was making with this thing. It was quite encrusted and took a bit to scrub it off. The pump, of course, first thing I did is look in here and everything looked really good. The gears looked really good and there was no issues with there was no shavings or anything like that, not even metal powder in the oil. The gears have a tiny bit of rust on them that'll polish itself out once it starts running again, and that's not an issue. So everything there looks good. Out on the end here, there's the flange and everything. So these studs, we'll pull these out. What it requires is taking these bolts off, that flange, and then the whole thing just slides out. And I'll press those out. I'll cut them off and then you press them out. And then I'll draw in the next ones, and that's pretty straightforward. It takes a little time. It's messing around, but nothing difficult. The wheel stud here, we will, of course, replace that one. I've left them on there just to keep the brake lines closed up and keep them clean in there. And once I flush out the brake lines and everything, the new wheel cylinder will go on. And that'll happen today. On this end, here's the see if I get that straight again. The other end, the business end of it, the input shaft goes here. Everything looked good. I'll replace the seal and clean that up and inspect inside there, make sure there's no accumulated crud or anything. The shaft for it goes in, the torque tube is here, and everything on it looked really good. It was a little rusty, so I just cleaned it up cosmetic. The other end looks really good. Let me see, get that on there. The other end looks really good. No grooving or anything with the seal. Oh, there's a tiny, no, that's not the groove. It's a machining groove. So that looks really good. So it won't leak. The torque tube itself is that, and just cleaned it up. Not that, anyone's going to see it, but whenever you get under the car, if it's not clean anymore or stuff like that, you'll know it's a new problem has developed, and you'll see what I mean when you see your engine and oil pan and everything. I'll scrub it up a bit, but you'll see how much accumulated. You get a sense of how much oil and dirt was crusting everything. The cover itself, cleaned it up. I just needed to finish up a little bit in here, get that rust that rusted last night actually, and that'll go back on. Took care of a few little dings. When people over tighten these, they tend to deform these, and then that means you don't get a good seal around the gasket. So that's all taken care of. As I mentioned, I consider all the rubber parts in the car suspect until otherwise, proven otherwise. And here's your torque tube donut. Here's the rest of it. So it did come apart at the front. It was still okay in the back. So the car would have driven okay for a while, but it was halfway towards complete failure. And then the bearing in here everything was okay as well, but we got another bearing for that. I think that's it. One other part. Again, cleaning these things up was not that easy, as crusty as they were, but it came up together good. So I'll be able to put the torque tube together. Once I get the donut in is the only challenging part. I'll get that all together and put that back together today. Put it back on the differential today. Paint that thing up, give it overnight to dry, and tomorrow it goes in the car. And I'll have the back wheels and everything taken. It's Mike again. I'll show you the completion of the work here. So here is your brakes, the big wheel cylinder, the studs, everything's all back together. The red bits in there. Let's see if I can get the light in there. Those are your poly bushings, new springs. See the shiny sway bar back there and the linkage. So everything went together pretty nicely under there. It's a bit of a bear doing it alone, But otherwise, pretty much all in there, and everything looks really good. The only thing I have left to do on this is the shocks, and that's because I need a second pair of hands to help get those in there. So that part's done. Next part is to get the front off. The one holdup on that was getting the upper ball joints, but Gil has those and he sent them in yesterday. Also, let's get this thing straight. The master cylinder for the brakes, he didn't have those. He sent me one as a prototype. He has a new model, a slightly new design. So he wants me to put that in my car, and I'll do that today. And then if that works out, he'll order more, or maybe you can get the hand-me-down from my car if I don't end up keeping it as a spare, because racers need lots of spares. As to your question about will the stock wheels fit on the big brakes, the brakes that you're getting, so no problem there. That's your spare tire. And here's what the brake system looks like actually. Yours will be just like this, like maybe a different spacer. Long studs, modified hub here. I have to cut this off to fit under the caliper. Vented rotors and a BMW style caliper. So the spacer brings everything out past the caliper is what that does. And the diameter and everything seems to be okay for the wheel fitment. I was a little surprised that the 13-inch wheels fit over there. So I think that's kind of it for now. Like I said, the rear's done. I'm going to start taking the front off as soon as I go through do the job on the master cylinder here today on my car, and then we'll keep moving. I'm sorry I haven't been able to put as much concentrated time into this. I keep getting pulled out of town or onto something else, but it's going well. I should have it done in a couple of weeks for you, and then test drive it. We will at some point need to get it licensed. I guess 2005 is the last time it was shown, and I could drive it around the country roads here a little bit without much trouble, but if I get much anywhere, try to put any actual miles on it, we want to get it legal. That's it for now. I'll let you know when I get the front off and how that's going.